Goffstown River Advisory Committee meeting for Wednesday, August 20th, 2025. First up, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next up, I'd like to do a roll call, and we'll start with this gentleman.
Christopher Carabin.
Christopher.
Paul Gagney.
Paul's there, okay.
Josh Elliott.
Josh.
Diaz-Solitz.
Andy Cataret, and I'm also the PRLAC representative on it, and I live on the river, so I'm a butter to this dam.
Okay. My name is Pete Georgiantis. I'm the Select Board Rep, Chair of the Board.
Barbara Schultz.
And Barbara. We're missing Richard Bruno and Jane Raymond. We're not able to make it tonight. So, first up would be the approval of the minutes from 2/19/2025. Now, these were passed out and there's a page missing. So if they were sent out by email, I don't know if anybody got a chance to read them, but if you didn't, we can put these off to the next meeting. If you look, it says page 1 of 3, and then it goes to 3 of 3, and there's nothing, so.
I'm sorry, I didn't read them. So.
All right, so we'll put the minutes off until the next meeting. First, okay, we'll go up with public comment. Is there anybody here for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on from that. Okay, then the main crux of this meeting is we received a letter from New Hampshire DES for support of an aquatic resource mitigation program grant to fund the removal of the Hanley Falls Dam. I'm sure everybody's aware of what's going on with that, and it's been designated that the state has come up with they're going to remove the dam. And I think it's up to us to make sure that if that's going to happen, it happens at the best interest of the town. And Andy, did you want to talk about that, or
Well, I'd like to hear what other people have to say. I'm assuming everybody read the application. They have questions about the. So the state provided us an application for the ARM grant. It was on the website, so people wanted to look at that, and they're asking for our support. And our goal is to basically make a recommendation to the select board as to whether they should support that, not support that, or do
we
something
could support
else.
it with conditions?
Right.
Would that be accurate?
We could do that.
Yeah.
And it is important to note that the town wasn't consulted on any of the proposals that were in there. It was pretty much done at the state level. They hired engineers to go out and come up with 5 scenarios. And they're choosing scenario 2, which is basically the removal of the Hadley Falls Dam with some stream restoration. The other options would be just remove the dam, no stream restoration, remove the dam with some stream restoration, remove the dam with stream restoration and some public improvements, and then there were 2 other options for rebuilding the dam with fish passage and rebuilding it without fish passage. So again, I'm also a member of the PRLAC, and they also reached out to us for a letter of support. I do have a conflict there because on the PRLAC, we're charged with the Piscataquag River Local Advisory Committee is charged with, commenting on impacts to the water, the river. The Piscataquag River is a designated river, and so commenting on them within a quarter of a mile of the river, all the way wherever the river is. And so the conflict there would be, anything to do with dam removal is probably going to be supported by that committee. I live on the river though, and I'm looking out for the interest of the community, so it's a tough one for me. But I think that the proposal has a lot of what about questions. They're talking about if there's contamination, leaving it in place. That's a high concern. They're talking about restoring the river to its natural state, but there's no explanation as to what natural state that would be. Was the river naturally there? We don't know. I don't know if people have questions or if wanna, yeah.
The budget, I guess, was that more for, like, removal and beautification of the area? Kind of making it more, I remember we talked previously about maybe them turning it into some sort of like a parkway along what would be kind of like like a creek sort of a thing, with some water, you're saying? And
I don't think, that's not what I saw, and if anybody else read it differently, they're saying option 2, which is removal of the dam and river restoration. Derek, I don't know if you read it differently, and that was at a 4.5. They had the other option, which was community improvements at 5.4 million.
Okay.
But that's only if they had funds to do that, and that's not what the grant's for.
Okay, so basically just remove the dam and allow for a little bit of water passage through there.
Yeah.
Next question would be, do we know how that would impact Namaski Lake?
Don't know.
It shouldn't have any impact.
Yeah,
on
it shouldn't
the
have any
master,
impact, because the water flow is gonna stay the
Because,
same.
and that's below Greg Falls
Yeah.
Dam.
Okay, I didn't know if the water level would rise or anything like that.
No,
No.
it shouldn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that would be an issue, but, the question about contaminants is, I think, one thing that, they're saying they're gonna test it. They don't say what they're testing for. They don't say how deep they're gonna go into the ground.
Okay.
And then they talk about if there's contaminants, they're gonna leave them in place, which I'm not an engineer, but I don't know what that looks like. And if there's a flood and that gets washed out, it's deemed contaminated, what does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right, you have to deal with, right, if it's all dried out, right, does it become airborne? And it depends on what the contamination is, right? There might be some,
Exactly.
right, it doesn't get airborne because of whatever the molecular chain or whatever the contaminant is,
Right.
can't do that, but we don't know what's down there.
Is milfoil considered a contaminant?
I don't think so. I think it's just invasive species.
Yeah. We got milfoil all over it, so
Right.
I mean, found, and even in the Maskey, there's lots of milfoil, so.
I think they listed some of the contaminants, if I remember. But there's also, I think, different levels of, is it hazardous or is it just a contaminant, Does it cause a problem if you ingest it? Does it cause a problem if it touches you? But it's very vague, I guess, is that. And then I think the other comment is what's the natural stream bed look like? They talk about, removing the dam and just letting the river have a natural channel. And I think we had Corey in here one time, and they don't really know where the stream was. They don't know if the actual river went over the dam or if it went through the mill property or if it went somewhere else. And so if they remove it, what does a natural stream channel look like? And one of the exercises for this is for fish passage, and then the question is can the fish actually navigate what's left there as so have you really achieved anything? And then long-term monitoring of all this, like if there's contamination, are they gonna monitor it for forever? What are they gonna do in 15 years? Or fish passage, what's gonna happen in 15 years if the fish are not able to do that? Are they gonna come back in? There's no explanation, there's no money for that. And then stabilization of properties. That's what I'm concerned about. Probably Dia is what happens if the river decides to change channel and undercuts my property and my house is falling in 10 years? Who's responsible for that?
Right.
Is it the property owner? Is it the state? How are they gonna mitigate that?
Or what is being offered to the property owners, if anything, to those on the river?
And then the community's the other, there's, even in the application, it states that there's no benefit to the community by the removal of the dam.
So the charge of this committee is to make a recommendation to the select board. In order to make that recommendation, yea or nay, I think you need to have reasons. I mean, the committee does not recommend because of these certain reasons to the select board, and the select board can make their decisions on what they receive from this committee and others. That's what we should be doing with it. Now, you just made a list of concerns. Now, I haven't been here when Corey's been here, of course, I've been to the other meetings with Corey. Has this ever been spoken to or talked to with him on it? On the contaminants and the riverbed and
I don't think we went into this level of detail in it. It hasn't been addressed this way. You guys remember that? I mean, it was a lot of up here type.
Context and background
Right.
and what DES does, because we weren't at this point.
I mean, there were certainly questions about
Sure.
what happens to all that dirt behind the
Yes.
dam.
Yes.
So the issue is they own the dam. And they don't want the liabilities of the dam any longer. So I think it's important for us to represent the town and come up with a reasonable request to say, okay, what is this gonna look like? We wanna, before we say yes, we support this grant, we want a little bit better idea of what you're looking at. The problem with that is the timeline now. Timeline, has to be done, what, by next week, I think, wasn't it?
27th.
27th, right.
Yes.
Something like that.
A week from now. So therein lies the problem. And, we don't have to give them a recommendation,
Nope.
but they could still go for the grant.
Right.
So I think if we had recommendations to them, concerns, and told them this is why we're hesitant to support you, I think it would be better received by them, saying, okay, I can understand why they wouldn't do this, or why they wouldn't support it, because there's too many unanswered questions. And I think that would probably be the best route, unless someone's got a better idea.
I just, you, when you were talking, Andy, said that the Piscataqua River Council was likely to support this.
What I was inferring was that their objective, their area is the health of the river.
Right.
And I think we all have to recognize that a river's best state is in its natural state. So I'm not saying that committee is going to support it. They're going to ask a lot of questions, because there's people who are way more smarter than me on that, and they're probably going to try to get some of these questions answered before they make any decision. So my point was that I'm in a conflict here with, a river in its natural state is the best thing for a river, but what's the best for the community and what's best for me as a property owner is different.
Well, and also, Peter, you said that, the state is conscious of their liability should the dam fail, but I think that it's not just liability, it's Dia's house and,
Well, that's part of the liability.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
Dean's
but
house. Right.
it's not just a financial thing for the state. And I would, if this is, they've been struggling to get money, and if this is the only opportunity they have to get the money, and our committee's support would be a big weight in getting that. It seems unfortunate that we have questions that aren't going to be able to be addressed before the timeline.
Anybody else?
Yeah, if I kind of thought about how we could respond, and one is we could support it as proposed, which I don't know that we would be comfortable doing that. We could not support it and just say we don't support it. There's the option of a conditional support, we support the idea in general, but there's too many questions that we need to have answered. And then there's other options, and I recognize that, the dam is going to be removed at some point. But, Corey had said that if he doesn't get funding through these grants, they were going to seek to put in the budget at sometime in the future with the state funds to remove the dam. So that's the other option. So if we had good lobbyists, maybe we could have them put in more in the budget to rebuild the dam. The difference between removing the dam and rebuilding it is $1 million. That's the difference, according to their engineering report. I don't think that's going to happen. Right. I don't think it's going to happen.
There's no money.
But we could do other things. We could do other things, So back to what you said, Peter, we don't have to support this, but we should, ask questions and be the local eyes and ears, knowing that to keep DES doing what's best for the community. However that's achieved, I don't know though.
I understand, what you're saying, but are you, by working with them, by helping them support, are you gonna get more support from them versus if you say, we're not gonna support you, and they go and get the money anyway, and then they're gonna say, well, hey, you didn't support us when we were doing this project, why would we wanna do anything extra for you?
Right, there's a-
That's,
There's a tactics question there, right, of where,
right.
yeah, if it's gonna happen, do you wanna go have your input or just say no and then you're left out of any discussions?
Right.
you know?
That's a concern that we have to have, that I don't believe that just saying no is the right approach versus,
Some type of conditional.
yeah, some kind of
Yeah.
conditional with the
Same.
understanding that we'll support this, providing that, we have the understanding that you're gonna support us in our town with the restructuring of it.
Could we ask one more time?
Uh-huh.
Could we have a response that is kind of with more questions and asking for delayed time for them to respond and maybe meet with us?
They have to have the grant has to be in by a certain date.
By September 5th.
Right.
And so they wanted to hear from us or the selectmen. I wasn't clear, I thought it was a recommendation from us, but it's actually a recommendation from select board.
They
By
requested
September
both, but
Both.
perhaps this advisory committee to the select board could say, we're hesitant to support the grant application at this time because there are too many questions. Here are some of these questions, you have an opportunity to address these before it goes to the select board on Monday the 25th. And, I mean, it's not much.
Corey's out now, right?
He's back in the office tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Starting tomorrow, he's been out for a week and a half, so, I mean, that's the only other thing I could think of, is you at least give DES an opportunity, because if they don't answer, and these questions are still lingering, I think it would be very hard for the select board to outright support a grant application with so many questions still pending.
So,
I think that's a good idea.
okay, so I think we need to iron out what questions are the most important. I mean, you don't wanna give them, 1,000 questions and say, okay, you got 5 days or 3 days to answer all these with, legitimate answers, so.
So a lot of the questions that I had, PRLAC submitted to Corey last week.
You sent to Corey last week?
And we.
He's on vacation, so we didn't get,
We got it to him before he went on vacation, so he was aware of that. And we meet next Tuesday. And so our ask was that Corey had answers to us by next Tuesday to these questions around, and it's mostly around, like, contamination, what the river restoration's gonna look like, how far up the river, why did they choose that metric? The community thing, I guess, back to Goffstown, it's like,
what's it gonna look like? I think that's what everybody's worried about, what's it gonna look like?
It's
Let's
different,
get right down to it. One
Right.
time they sent out
Yeah.
some sketches of what they thought that would be something nice, I don't know, hope they've all seen those sketches?
I don't think so. I don't know if everybody's seen the.
With the walkway and everything?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that was in that big package grant thing, and I think they've kind of,
Well, I don't
Yeah.
know, okay, so if they're cutting down on that, what are they cutting out? That's our questions, Okay, you showed us this nice picture and what it could be, what's actually at this grant, at that price that you put out, grant, what's left? I think that would be a
I think-
legitimate question. Have you all seen that sketch?
No.
You still have that?
Yes.
Okay. We probably should try to get that out to everybody. I don't know if I have it with me here.
No, I think so.
I got a whole package of stuff.
Let me see if I can put it on the projector real quick, if you give me a minute.
One of the other questions is if this is about, part of it's about Fish Passage, not the whole thing, but part of it. And if nothing happens down where you are with Fish Passage, in Kelly's Falls, they haven't achieved that an objective. So there's a lot of questions there, like, will they still do it if there's no funds to put a fish ladder at Kelly's Falls? I suppose they would still do it,
But
but.
they've come up with another
Yeah.
plan to hopefully, from what I understand, that to be able to move the fish from below Kelly's Falls to above Glen Falls.
If there's funding for it.
If there's funding.
Well, I understood that, but it's possibly Glen Falls'
Yeah.
operation's gonna help support that. So it would be a transfer truck picking them up, sucking them up. So then that would eliminate the problem on both of those dams as far as fish.
Yeah.
If they were to do that, and they were to do the fish passage from Kelly Falls all the way up to Glen Lake, basically, would that, open up a FERC license for somebody to take over the dam?
Correct. Yes, it would.
I would think so. I thought,
Yeah.
that, there's been lots of talk, and I don't wanna talk out of turn from what things that I've been told, but, you know, I understood that people who are operating Glen Falls were interested in doing something like that instead of putting in a fish passage.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if that's ever gonna happen, that's just, possibilities. So, but they're, you know, they are working on it, and they understand, and, you know, we know people down in Maskey are very concerned about it. But, and who knows what's gonna happen with federal government funding anyway right now, so. Did you find it there?
Yeah, I'm just,
It does sound to me from what I read though, that what Derek is pulling up, I mean, when you ask what's left, it's just, it's gonna be the raw river and
Well, I don't
making
know,
sure
that's,
that the
I think
banks
we
are.
need to have
yeah.
that answer.
Yeah,
Like I was wondering, what does, you know, they talk about with this, if there's contaminants, they're gonna contain it. What does that look like? Is that riprap?
no, that's a very,
You know?
that's a very
Or is
specific,
that
yes,
a mat
yes.
that they're gonna put down?
Right.
And, you know, every spring when it floods, how are they gonna monitor that? Do you want me to pull this down, Derek?
just give me a second, it's reinstalling the click share.
Question, is the contaminants a one-time deal when they're removing the dam of just digging up and disturbing what's there? Or is that really a long-term scenario where every time we have a storm, it's gonna keep churning things
Well,
up?
it depends on how much contaminants are in there, you know, is there a foot of it, or is it 10 feet of it, you know what I mean? So.
And there may be none.
There may be none, right, but I think the
But
dam's
that is-
Aren't they
holding.
doing some testing on that recently, I thought?
They were doing some testing.
Yeah, so we should have answers on that, I would hope, before too long.
But it is a fair question. How long would it be maintained? Under what circumstances, if needed?
I don't think it'd be advantageous for the town to take over the dam at this point, the expenditures.
Do I dim lights or anything, or how's
No,
that, what's the best way to do it?
being a little finicky, hold on a second.
Here it goes.
Can I ask a question? No? Okay, disregard. Sorry about that.
Derek, will this shut all the lights off, or just?
Just do the first one. So.
And so this was basically a plan they proposed like 2 years ago when they were applying for NOAA funding, if I remember, which,
But it was a plan, and if
Yep.
they, you know, my question to them is, how much have they dumbed it down to get into their
Dollar number?
dollar amount, yeah.
I think all of it, fear. You know, you don't want the town to be stuck having to raise the funds to do that.
Exactly. Hello?
Yeah, I gotta make sure I get on the.
Do we want to go to old business or new business while we're waiting? for
Sure,
this?
go ahead. What do we got on the old business?
I think old business was really more about, like, the next meeting, you know, we have this, we don't know what the response is gonna be, but we were trying to line up speakers to come in. I did talk to the town of Exeter, who went through a similar dam removal, although in that case, the town owned the dam. It didn't sound like the person I spoke to was willing to, like, meet us after hours. So we might need to find another town. I know you gave me a town, I think was it in Wyndham?
Yeah, it was Wyndham.
Which
yeah.
they were responsive. I don't know the whole situation there, if the town owned it or if it was a state-owned
You know,
dam.
I have lost it.
I have
details
the
of it,
contact
okay.
of the person. and
I mean,
they-
I've lost it in the brain whether they owned it or not, like I forget the details of it.
And then Paul was
That'll work.
talking about having, at the next meeting, if someone from the Maskey Lake Association is available, just to kind of like solidify our connections. So that would be the
We also
September.
talked about maybe doing a field trip. Maybe that doesn't have to be after hours for those who could be available.
To
Exeter.
where?
To Exeter.
To Exeter?
During the day, are we allowed to meet at
I
other
don't know,
times?
I don't know what that, if we go to Exeter, I mean, that's what the person actually wanted us to do, was come out to Exeter to look at
To
what they
meet, yeah,
did.
that makes sense.
But Derek, is that a meeting that would have to be posted if we went to Exeter as a committee?
I would have to look at the RSA's. Usually
I would think.
committees need to meet within the town boundaries is
Oh.
only, but I would have to look into that.
Right, well, I mean, I'd be happy to go out to Exeter if someone wanted to go out and meet with this gentleman.
Would it be effective to Zoom with them? Could they Zoom in?
The person didn't indicate that they were willing to do it after hours.
Oh, okay. The timing is the
Yeah.
issue, okay.
And they actually have another dam they're removing too, so they're actually, they did the one downtown, and then there's one on a pond that they're looking to take out.
That's a smaller one though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Francistown just took out a dam as well.
I think that was a really small privately owned dam,
Oh,
from what I remember.
okay.
But are there other topic discussions, you know?
The only thing I remember was possibly updating the web, tried to get information from people who had met with us, make it current. But we knew,
Unfortunately, I don't think I'm gonna be able to get it to work. It doesn't seem that the click share is working. Apologize.
All right, it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
So that's a good question, Derek. We, you know, like this, you know, can we put this imagery on the website under our committee? The committee.
So right now it is on there. It's attached to your agenda for tonight's meeting is
Right.
the request that came in from DES. So I included the email that came in on August 8th, as well as the sample letter that they had provided, as well as their grant application that included the imagery and the plans for the actual work that would be done. So that was with the agenda. We can add a news flash item that makes it easier to find.
Yeah, because I could only find it if I went to the calendar, found the meeting on the calendar, and then clicked the agenda there.
Yep.
Usually agendas are in the agenda section for the committees.
Yep, and it's there.
Okay. I don't know, I just, you know, part of this committee is communication and keeping the public informed and educated on what's happening. And just the easier it is for people to find things, I think the better.
So let's get back to what do we want to put forth to the select board as a recommendation, or do you want to wait? We don't have another meeting before that, so. And I don't know if we could call a meeting either, because I don't know as far as the availability of the big meeting room.
How many questions did you send to Corey? Can we just like pull those questions into our recommendation?
It's like 30 questions.
Oh,
40
30 questions, okay.
So this is.
Technical questions about the application.
Okay.
Okay,
got it.
so if we can get those answers and then put something together about what's in it for us. And this,
Yeah,
You know,
how do you word that?
yeah, that's exactly. What is in this grant that is going to be good for Goffstown, or that we would want to support it, I guess would be the question, right?
You know, I'm just like going off the top, thinking like, you know, we recognize the dam is, you know, imminent removal is gonna happen. There was a lot of questions that, you know, that we didn't know the answer to. So, while the town understands the dam will be removed, we would need more information to support. You know, how can we come together to do that? I don't know. Because you don't want to say you support it without knowing the details. And what's in it for us is really the question, like, what are you gonna
Exactly. What's in
do
it for us?
to help with
Kind of a remediation
you know,
you're gonna do for,
the community impacts?
Right.
You know, the loss of the impoundment, the recreation, the aesthetics, the sense of place, you know, all those things, you know, how are you going to offset that? Even when they say in the grant that removal is gonna have, does not have a positive community impact.
what are the plans for remediation in Goffstown? And that would be the question.
Or how are you going, it's really the community impact. I think a remediation is like, you know, repairing for the contamination type stuff. So I've got, you know, the community impact, you know, how will you,
Improvement?
yeah, what community, how are you gonna offset the community impact with improvements that are acceptable to the town? Somebody help me with some wordsmithing here, come on. Be it.
I think that's the question. Okay, they've already asked the question. Your group's already asked important questions.
Right.
So those 30 questions, so what we need to know is what's in it for us, is our question. So what kind of improvements are planned for the town's riverbed? Because at one time, like I said, they had made like fish ladder, not fish ladder, but fishing areas
and stuff like that,
And they
yeah.
had some.
Accessibility.
Yeah, the accessibilities, to a river walk type thing, and that's all something that can be done.
Yeah.
Is there $500,000 in there for us, or $1 million in that for us? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think that's the important part. I think that's what we need to be concerned with. You guys have already asked the important questions, it sounds like. We need to find out what's in the Goffstown. We're just not gonna give it up without, leave us with a mess. We're just not gonna accept that.
Right, that we can't ask the taxpayers to pay for, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I can't even give them to pay for the roads, I'm like.
Derek, how would you word that?
Well, I think you would send some draft language of key questions to ask, community impacts. How will recreational and visual losses be addressed for residents and maybe even property owners along the impacted? Another question you asked is, this is gonna significantly change the floodplain in this area, so how will they address FEMA floodplain modeling? They did indicate in their application that that's going to be an issue, but they did not, it wasn't clear in there what the solution to that issue would be.
And so that would be like if they remove the dam, I just want to think it through, if they remove the dam and now other areas flood that weren't expected to flood, and those people are like, hey, you gotta get flood insurance now because we removed the dam.
Or the properties further up the river are going to have a change to where the floodplains are now. And are they still going to be paying for flood insurance when maybe they no longer need it because they're no longer in the floodplain? And they really should be, you would hope that they would be working with FEMA to do new modeling. Once you pull that dam out, that you'd be doing new modeling both above and below the dam.
So I think that should be the crux of our letters is, you know, we'd like to support this, but we don't have the information on this. You know, and those questions that have already been asked are.
With the focus on the community.
Exactly, you already asked the hard questions
More
on.
technical.
Okay. So, is that what we wanna do? We go to the Board of Selectmen and say, you know, we need this information before we can get on board. Not necessarily against it, but there's too many outstanding issues to get on board. Would that be accurate? Because that's what we're trying to do tonight,
Yeah.
is to get that recommendation to the select board before the select board makes a decision. We want to get the input, and I think that's the way to do it.
We recognize the dam is, going to come down, but you need more information to fully support this, because we want to know what how are you going to ensure that the community
It's protected.
is protected or has the best outcome for the community, not just.
And we have those questions, right, Derek? You said pretty much.
Yep, and I can, if the committee's comfortable letting me work with the chair and the vice chair on that, we can get that off immediately. So hopefully, DES can maybe provide some answers before the select board meeting on Monday.
Does that work for everybody?
So do we vote on that?
I would vote on that.
How do we vote on that?
Just what we just said,
I think you would vote to, at this time, not provide a letter of recommendation for the grant application, and to further authorize the chair and the vice chair to correspond with DES to list questions that the committee has that perhaps could be answered in time for the select board to act upon it next week.
Okay. So does anybody want to make that motion?
I'll make that motion, what Derek just said.
Exactly, and I'm like, I couldn't remember it.
So if I understand this correctly, I'm making a motion that this committee tells the state that we need more information before we can fully support it, and we would like to try to get those answers to those questions by Monday.
Actually, you're telling the select board, and the select board would be the ones I would
Okay.
believe, along with the committee, the both of us.
Okay.
I think that we can get the select board to go along with the same information, but
I
we're
think-
gonna
I
go
think we
ahead
should-
of time.
No, I think we should ask for the answers
Now.
sooner rather than
Right,
later, because
before Monday,
perhaps
before
they
you-
come back with answers and the select board are satisfied on Monday.
All right, that's fine, I'm good with that. So you made a motion, it was seconded by,
Are we clear on the motion? Should we restate it?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
One thing I kind of want to just ask, I guess, is if, in the motion, it would be you guys speaking on our behalf in terms of that response to them, and if they answer you guys would be the ones answering. I think for me, my vested interest is, obviously, I want to keep the dams, and I want, particularly Kelly's dam there. But with Hadley Falls, if that's imminently going to be removed anyways, I think property values, expenses, things that are going to impact people negatively, like, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page in terms of, we want to boost values and find ways to keep everything, I guess, in a positive light here, whether that's beautification or whatever it is. I just don't want to see anything, I guess, for lack of a better term, go down the river. I want to make sure everybody's best interest is at heart here.
I understand that, and I think that's what we all want.
Yeah.
But we also have to understand, we don't own it, and it's gonna come down, and what we need to do is, work with them, tell them, okay, we can't go and demand that you're gonna do this and you're gonna do that, because they're gonna say, okay, you're gonna get nothing, like we said before. I think you're
It's
better
a
off
risk.
working with these people. Because you just don't want, tell them, that you're either gonna do this or we're not gonna support it. That's,
Right.
they'll say, fine.
Right.
And they're gonna go ahead and do it anyway.
Yeah.
So like I said, you're better off working with them than trying to make demands.
I agree, although I think it is important to say we want to make sure, we are trying to ensure the history and the beauty and the unique character of Goffstown is preserved. That we want to be informed and be communicated with, and we want to be part of it.
No, I don't disagree. I think that's what we've been saying, and we want to make sure
Yeah,
we're protected.
yes.
I agree.
And I think to put it succinctly, right, the state is taking care of a liability, but we're losing an asset in the process.
Huge.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion. We got a second on it yet?
I second.
A second. Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. So that'll go to, we'll get the letter out tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll try and get a draft to both of you this evening.
Okay. We'll work on that. And
Yeah.
like I said, I think our concern is the beautification issues and, protecting the town's assets. And the hard stuff, soils and things like that, you guys have already,
We're asking those questions, yeah.
yeah.
Can I have a follow-up question for Derek? I remember Mr. Chair, if you don't mind.
No, go right ahead.
Thank you. Remember at our last meeting back in February, we had sort of discussed the bridge itself and whether it's a town-owned bridge and whether the engineers had taken a look and seeing that, drawing down that water was gonna have any impact on the bridge itself.
So the vehicular bridge is town-owned, but
Okay.
they do regular inspections and work with, on that, because it's also a state Route 13 and 114. I don't know if they've done that level inspection and would know, I don't recall seeing that in the engineering analysis that's been done by the state to date.
Okay.
But that's definitely an issue that I will alert DPW to.
Okay.
DPW did look over the grant application. They don't have a lot of comment at this time. They did mention that potentially adding some parking along Mill Street, if the river was going to get narrower, that could be a potentially beneficial option for the town. But other than that, they didn't have any specific concerns, because again, it's not a fully engineered plan on what the state's gonna do.
Gotcha. And then, just as a follow-up to that, I remember we're gonna talk to the water precinct, just with the wells being further upstream. Given the map here, it doesn't look like it would be impacted in terms of having a lower water level and impacting water tables in terms of drawing on those wells.
Yeah, so we did send this when we did send this the plan that was shared with us back in May. We did share that with the village water precinct. Didn't hear back from them, but I can follow up with them. I know that they are also looking at some alternatives to what they have for existing wells in other locations, so I'll make them aware of that.
Okay, so, given that they didn't freak out about this, is probably a good sign.
Yes, this plan would require the fire department there's a couple of dry wells that hook into the river that they would actually have to hook into Grassmere Village Water Precinct. Not Grassmere, I'm sorry, the Goffstown Village Water Precinct, so.
Anything else?
I had one other kind of follow-up, and this is kind of just like a wild question, and Peter, you would know better. And,
Oh, here we
I
go.
know.
Put me on the spot.
Do we want to do the exercise? This is an exercise of recommending that the select board put a warrant article out that the town buy the dam and raise the funds to repair it. And the only reason I ask is because that way the town is on notice that this is happening. Right now, I don't know how many people realize that the dam is going to come down. And by putting a warrant article, everybody would have the opportunity to vote
And
or
then-
be aware of, at least. This committee's been here for a
But-
year.
There's a couple of problems with that. Number one, I don't think you get the support.
And I agree with that, I agree.
And then you do it, it's an exercise then.
Yeah.
And then, number two is, if it fails, no means no, so you can't do anything.
So we're not gonna do anything if we,
So I
don't have
I
money.
don't,
so I just want to throw that out there for discussion.
I would not be in favor of that. I wouldn't promote it, but hey, anybody can put a warrant article out, you know that. Anybody can, if they wanna put a warrant article. Then you gotta make sure when you're doing your warrant article, if we own the dam, there's certain, certain regulations that the town has to follow.
Yeah.
Expensive inspections, I think it's every 2 to 3 years, they have to be inspected, the dam has to be inspected.
Yeah, it would be a,
And it's an ongoing cost that I'm not sure that I would support, but hey.
And if you said that you're not sure everyone knows that the dam's coming down, I think that's on us. Like, isn't that our purpose, is to communicate to the public? So what can we do to make sure that everyone in town does know the dam is coming down? Other than a warrant article that gives people heart attacks.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I
I-
don't know if that would be advantageous to do it that way. There's gotta be
Right. I
other
think
ways,
there's-
and,
Yeah,
you know, we're at two ends of the town, you know, you hate to say it that way, but, you know, it's just, I don't know if you'd get enough people to support an article like that. And if you're doing it just for informational purpose, the selectmen will be hung.
Well, the selectmen could say, they do not support, and the budget committee could say they do not support. I'm just
Then
throwing it
what's
out
the,
there.
then what's the sense of doing it, just to
I
do it
think
that
we
way?
can get the word out other ways.
I'd do it other ways, just to get the word out.
Could you raise funds for the difference? I mean, you said it was $1 million difference between, I guess, rebuilding the dam and taking it down. I mean, if there was a budget for up to $1 million less than the coverage to,
You mean to participate in what the state's doing, is that?
No, their estimates come in with pulling the dam, removing the dam, with no community improvements is 4.5. With community improvements, it was 5.1 million. To remove the dam and rebuild it without a fish ladder, because you don't have to put a fish ladder in, it's 6.5. So it's $1 million roughly between doing it with improvements or pulling the dam down and rebuilding a dam. I still, I don't know where $1 million would come from.
right?
I'm sorry, in that case, would the dam still be owned by the state?
No.
You know, by the
But
time.
then he comes back to what Peter said, is
Exactly, long
the
term.
ongoing cost to the community to,
And they
upkeep it.
dams deteriorate as we, doing it now, so. And then
That's a tough
there
one.
again, the town accepts the liability of the dam versus now it's the state.
Mhm.
So,
That's a tough one.
anything else? So our next meeting is scheduled for 9/17 at 6 PM.
Could I just tell the committee what I
Sure,
shared
go
with
right
you?
ahead.
So, since February, I have gotten involved with the library, and the library, meets on the third Wednesday as well. So, I was going to ask the committee if there's another night that the members would be able to switch to. But the other part of that is also that, switching the night would then be advantageous to the library because they are very interested in having their meetings be more public. And there's no way to film and record them in the library space where we meet. And so then they would be able to use this room on the third Wednesday for at least one of their, what they call their working meeting. So I just wanted to toss that out there if we want to think about, I know it's hard to get everybody to switch, and but it would benefit me being able to stay on both committees as well as benefiting the library being able to film. So,
I'm not sure what nights would be available.
So Wednesdays, this room would not be available. Right now, we have something on the 1st, and the 3rd and the 4th.
but we're here on the third.
We're on the 3rd.
So if we
you
moved
could
away from
possibly-
the third, then the library could pop in.
Yeah, but you understand, the rest of the week, the rest of the nights are tied up too.
So the second Wednesday is one that is currently available.
I'm not available second Wednesday, so.
Oh,
And then otherwise, you'd be looking at, most likely a Tuesday or a Thursday. The first and second Tuesdays are zoning board and then sewer commission. And then the second and fourth Thursdays are the planning board. And then once we get into budget committee, while the budget committee doesn't meet here, I will be tied up at budget committee on Tuesdays and Thursdays once we get into October, November, and December.
okay.
Barbara, could you ask the library if they could meet on the second Wednesday? Or is
Okay.
there, are they?
They meet the first and third Wednesdays.
Oh.
And so I think they need that time to do the work they need to do between the meetings.
But it sounds like the second Wednesday could be available to them.
Then they would have to be first and second Wednesday instead of having the time in
Right,
between.
I understand.
Yeah, okay, okay.
I can reach out to Diane at the library and let her know that, to see.
Okay,
I know that they were looking at options
yeah,
for being on GTV, but I had not heard from them on the,
because I told them I would ask the committee,
Okay.
that's why.
okay.
Is there a potential that they could meet at the high school?
We talked about that. It's something we're discussing, but, okay. All right. So
Anything
you're
else?
not available second Wednesday, and then the Tuesday, Thursday thing would get complicated for.
And I think
the
there was
rest of
somebody
us.
else that had a Tuesday, Thursday
Okay.
conflict.
Okay,
I'm not sure,
okay.
but
Okay, I knew it was difficult when we first set this up to find a night,
Yeah,
so,
because he's on some
but I
other
just thought I would ask, okay.
yeah, I know Dick Bruno is on,
Okay,
economic development.
he's on EDC as
Okay.
well as
Bridge.
Andy's on the bridge committee as well as Andy's on the PERLAC. and-
okay,
And then
Andy.
Jane
Raymond.
She's on
Raymond is
conservation,
on, she's the conservation, so they
along
meet-
with myself.
Yeah.
Jane and I are both
Okay.
on conservation.
Okay,
So are we confirmed the next meeting is September 17th?
Yes, we'll keep that meeting, and then if I can work out something with some possible changes, I will talk to Diane to see
Okay.
if there's a way that can kind of make it for both committees work.
Motion?
Can I just ask, are we looking for a visitor, speaker?
I'm gonna check with
For
Mike
the
Allen if we
17th.
can, so we'll
Okay.
have an update on the milfoil that they're doing like in the next week here.
Yep.
So we can get an update on that.
Okay.
when you finalize the language that you sent to the selectmen, will we get to,
Yeah, I'll share it with all.
okay,
all
okay,
you.
thank you.
Motion to adjourn? Somebody?
Motion adjourned.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries. We're done.